Hi guys, I'm just editing the podcast now. Just a quick heads up, I was really nervous. This was my first ever podcast ever did, so it's not great. Just try not to judge, like, subscribe, and a big thank you to Ben for being my first guest. Hi guys, and welcome to Crime Doesn't Pay podcast with Honey Pal. Today's guest, I've got Ben Hatchett here. He was a former prisoner in Broadmoor and is now a knuckle boxer.
No, let's go again.
Oh,
Yeah.
nearly had it.
Just relax. Just take your time.
Okay.
You nearly had it.
Hi guys, and welcome to Crime Doesn't Pay podcast with Honey Pal. Today's guest, I've got Ben Hatchett here, who was a former patient in Broadmoor and is now a professional knuckle boxer.
Bare Knuckle boxer.
Bare Knuckle boxer.
We got there. Thank you for having me on, honey. And also giving me an amazing tattoo today as well.
You're welcome.
That's how she got me on. But go on.
So I'd like to talk about your upbringing, if you want to talk more about that.
Yeah, sure. So, obviously, originally from the South Coast. I was born and raised in Hastings, which is at the bottom of the country. Moved around to a lot of foster care and that when I was younger. And then yeah, the time I got into like early teens, that's when things sort of spiraled out of control.
What was it like for you growing up in foster, if you don't mind me asking?
I can't really remember it too tough, to be honest. Obviously, foster homes and care homes are very different. So I got moved around quite a bit and that, which I definitely think affected me in the future. Not really having that like stability and etc. But yeah, then obviously I went back home, back to my family about 10, but the sort of relationship and that with my family wasn't really sort of there. And yeah, then I got to like my early teens. That's when I started, going out a lot, and I started mixing with a lot of people in our sort of town centre. And that's when, not long after that, I started getting into trouble and etc. But yeah,
Why did you keep getting into trouble?
why did I keep getting into
Yeah.
trouble? The reasons. That's a good question. I think I don't know. The reason for me getting into trouble was just it's just what you kind of fell into. Like, from an early age, sort of had a bit of difficulty. Like, I was a smaller lad and, didn't really fit in at school and etc. In the foster home and that, I was on the receiving end of violence from other kids. And then I think when I met the lad, then we become my friends, was in the town centre. In the town centre, they was like, as you would call, the cool lads. And I started meeting them, and it was like a sense of sort of, a sense of security, a sense of belonging. And yeah, and again, also, like, to say, like, I was kind of on the receiving end of bullying at that age and that as well, because of like from the foster and that, which made me quite vulnerable. And then when obviously I met these guys and that, when I started hanging around with them in the town, and then I realised that I could be violent like myself, then, I just like it. I felt like just a sense of belonging. You start developing a reputation, and you develop relationships, and yeah, that life it would just become exciting. But the thing is, it's like things can easily escalate. There was no filter, and over time, going to young offenders. I went to young offenders twice. And instead of that, like reforming me, instead of that putting me off the kind of lifestyle, you'd think, I think I was 15, 16 when I first went to young offenders Huntercombe. That was pretty wild in there. Instead of that, like being a wake up call for me, if anything, it gave me more of this like a sense of like drive to be more involved. So so when I come out of the young offenders, everything escalated. My behaviour from the violence, and I was just chasing something that wasn't there, like trying to chase to be someone I wasn't.
What was it like?
Sense?
Yeah, it makes sense. What was it like being in young offenders? Was it quite like scary or anything being in there?
It was like young offenders was quite wild. Huntercombe and Feltham, and a lot of guys there were from London, and obviously this is like 2006 or something, you know, like obviously I'm from the South Coast, I'm from like Eastbourne, Hastings, there's not many other guys from my area that age was going into young offenders, so I didn't really know many people there, like, you know, Huntercombe and Feltham being like sort of London based, a lot of guys was there, they knew each other, they were friends, or they had rivalries with other people, so, and when you're at that age, you know, yeah, like everyone's young, a lot of people are like violent. I didn't really get into many altercations and that with people. Not the first time. Even in really felt them. But I built a lot of relationships that I stayed in contact with. Then when I got out, and again, that's when the sort of crime and that would again escalate into to all kinds of things and that really.
So you said that you was on the receiving end of knife crime. Do you want
Yes.
to explain that a little bit?
Being on the receiving end of knife crime, obviously, you know, so my opinion on knife crime is obviously it's out of control. You know, it really is. It's scary as well, especially being a dad myself. Um, you know, obviously I was convicted for knife crime myself, so I can't be a hypocrite. You know, but when I came out of prison, you know, I think in 2020. I was going around. I was an organisation I was working with, Carl Scott. It was the anti-knife campaign. You know, because the thing is, we got to understand about knife crime. You know, like some kids and that are carrying knives for protection. You know, it's definitely becoming like a symbol of fashion and that now. The kind of knives, you know, one person I follow and I absolutely admire online is his name Farron. I've forgotten his name. It's Farron Paul, you know, I follow him online. What he does is, you know, getting a knife sent off the street, but it's definitely reality check that, you know, what is going on. And it's, you know, when knife crime happens, it's two people losing their life. The guy that's, you know, potentially does it, if he dies from the knife crime, you know, they're losing their life, their families and that affected. It's the ripple effect. And then it's also the perpetrator that's used the knife. You know, it's not just them that's going to be doing the sentence, it's their loved ones, it's the care ones, and it's just the ongoing ripple effect, you know, and it is out of control. You know, it's sad, really. Obviously, you know, now being a boxer, you know, I definitely think when it comes to people having problems, you know, from the community and that I'm part of, obviously it's well known that I'm involved with the No Rules violence. We didn't, you know, we have been involved in that. And I definitely think, you know, when two people, sometimes it does get to come to a point where two people do need to fight, you know, especially with men. And, but it doesn't need to involve knives. You know, sometimes a lot of the time when people do have a straightener, as I like to call it, you know, after they can shake hands and things can get put to bed. But unfortunately, you know, whether people are carrying knives due to, you know, a sense of security for themselves. It's just sad to see young lads and that as well that are willing to put a blade into another human being. You know,
Yeah,
it's sad
100%.
to see because of the fact that it is happening, and you know, hopefully, just with people that do promote anti-knife campaigns and people that are like Farron Paul that are out there actively getting the knives off the street, and people are passionate about and care about this, out there trying to make a difference. You know, hopefully more lives can get saved.
Would you say for people who are thinking about it, going down the going down the boxing route would be a better path for them? People who are going down the
I think
violent
going
kind of
down
route.
many paths in apart from knife crime would be good. You know, it's difficult to say because it depends on like in age. I mean, I know how easily it is to get caught in a certain lifestyle. You know, and you know when you sometimes you can get really involved in the depths of things you may not know anything different. You know, but I'll definitely highly recommend people getting into boxing gyms, getting into some form of sport. You know, and that people thinking about carrying a knife. Like you just got to fast forward the tape. It's like, you know, me, I'm in recovery now. I'm an addict. I have to fast forward the tape. Like I know what happens if I pick up a drink. I go and self sabotage. One's too many, a thousand's never enough for me. It's like, you know, you got to fast forward that tape. You pick up that knife, you may feel strong, etc., feel protected. But you know, if what is the reality of you having to use that knife? You know, one, could you even actually like, you know, like, if you drop your ego for a minute and actually believing, yeah, I'm going to use this knife, taking away the fact that you may think that sounds cool. Like, if you use that, could you live with yourself with taking another human being's life? Would you want that on your conscience? And are you willing to deal with the consequences? Because we live in fucking England. Like, there's like a camera everywhere. Do you know what I mean? The forensic team in these countries, it's like to get away with any sort of fucking crime these days is hard work. So if you think you're getting away with knife crime, obviously it does happen in that, but like, why run the risk? Why run the risk of losing your life over something that may feel, a lot of people get their pride affected, and what may feel like a big thing to you at that time, and you feel like you need to get your anger, you need to be violent towards that person. It may not matter years down the line. You probably wouldn't even remember it, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, 100%. Was it prison that you escaped from?
No, I attempted to escape. My charge was I attempted to escape lawful custody. I attempted to escape from a medium secure facility. But yeah, that was one of the reasons I had the sentence.
How did that come about?
Where we had like a fob. Do you know, like a fob key?
Yeah.
So we had fobs to our rooms, and there was where like you queued up to go out for your dinner. It was on like a door that leads out to reception and areas that like patients weren't allowed to go to, and where someone's just waiting for dinner, they're just like messing around with their fob, and they've put the fob on the fob reader, and it fucking works, one of the keys. So it was just literally like 1 in a million chance for that to happen, but it did. And then as soon as it happened, we was thinking like, that's when just people's minds start going. We was like, yeah, we're gonna escape. Let's do it. Like, and there was a couple of us that attempted that evening, but it didn't work.
How come it didn't work out?
We got caught in the act, and it turned into something that wasn't meant to be. It turned into more of a bit of a, like, a small riot. If it wasn't good. It just was meant to be like just a way of like escaping, just sneaking out, but it completely just went west.
Did you have any consequences?
Yeah, life sentence.
So you've done time in Broadmoor. What was that like?
So Broadmoor, yeah. So I was in Broadmoor for 2 years, then I was kicked out. So it was a combination of things. That it was there was numerous charges, from false imprisonment to attempt to escape lawful custody, and a few assaults. So it was just a combination of, like, I was trying to fight the system, or have you, and so yeah, and then obviously I went on top of a prison roof in Winchester. I said some crazy things when I was up there, and so basically they want to, like, just in the prison, because I was becoming unmanageable, but because of the things I was saying, they wasn't sure if I was, like, mentally well. So in prison they can't force medicate you. They have to. You go to hospital. In hospital, they can force medicate you. It's like the Accuphase, stick a needle in your bum. But they can't do that in prison. They can only do that in hospital. So Broadmoor, yeah, it's a high secure mental hospital. So I was given an indefinite sentence at Section 3741, which is similar to the IPP. Yeah, I was problematic in the prison system, and I caught charges. I was antisocial. I was fighting the system, and the charges built up, and then. So yeah, I ended up going to Broadmoor. Obviously, I knew what prison was like from a pretty early age. So, prison's prison. But then going to Broadmoor, yeah, Broadmoor was completely different. Like, everything about it, it's a high secure mental hospital. And when I was kicking off in prison and etc., like, the punishment would be go to the block, like segregation. No, if you kick off in places like Broadmoor, you don't only go to the segregation, you get a thing that's called Accuphase. Now, Accuphase is like you getting falsely sedated. And by that, I mean them come in, grab you, pin you down, pull your trousers down, and stick a big needle with medication in your ass.
What?
And that is you fucked for about 3-4 days. Accuphase, that's what they call it.
What was the weirdest thing that you seen being in there?
The weirdest thing I see being in Broadmoor, I don't know about weird. The whole thing was, there's many stories I could probably say about Broadmoor that are different, you know. I don't know. I think the weirdest thing about Broadmoor was actually finally getting out of there because, you know, it was a horrible experience. I was 21 years old. Obviously I had no release date. When I was in the community, I watched the film Bronson.
Mhm.
Obviously Tom Hardy played him in the film. So, and obviously in that film, you can see like bits of Broadmoor and all that. So I had all that in my head when I went there, and
Was there anything like that?
not really. Obviously, the film was like, you know, fictionalized for like entertainment, but yeah, it's still, you know, it's still on hell on earth. Like, I think your dad knew Roy Shaw, right?
Yeah.
He did, and Roy Shaw also he went to Broadmoor, and I remember reading one of his books, Roy Shaw. And he quoted Broadmoor. He said, "The nicest thing I can ever say about Broadmoor is I survived it." And yeah, I think I'll quote him on that one.
Okay. Who was there for you for your time in Broadmoor?
No one really. I didn't really have anyone in Broadmoor because obviously the sentence that I got, you know, Section 3741, which is indefinite. So, you know, I was like 22 years old and I was done. So I cut a lot of people out. You know, I had a sentence where I didn't, you know, where I had no release date. So I just stopped talking to people from community. And plus with the medication that they was giving you, like, I just felt like I was just existing. So I didn't really have anyone in Broadmoor.
That must have been really scary being at a young age and then getting that kind of sentence. Would you say that it had any toll on your mental health?
Well, I think I already lost the plot because I was in Broadmoor, so it didn't really help being in there. Yeah, yeah, they say it's a hospital, like a place for therapy, but I could definitely do with, you know, more therapy from when coming out of there, if you know what I mean.
Yeah. How did you get kicked out of Broadmoor?
Caused a riot, so I ended up breaching the Data Information Act. So when me and another patient kicked off, we took control of one of the wards, and Big Charlie, we got into the office. He smashed through the office, even though it was like Perspex glass. I don't know how he did it, but he did it. He got into the office, and back then it was pen and paper folders. So like, you know, the daily updates on you know, all your information. Also in the first couple of pages, it had your index offence. And so I knew what people was in for. Like on these two wards, the office was in the middle, and it separated two different wards. There's about 20 people on a ward in Broadmoor. And yeah, so me and Charlie, we smashed in, we barricaded this office, and then we was reading people's folders. So now the hospital have got a duty of care because technically they've actually got to protect us from other people, but they've also got to protect other people from us because we know, you know, sensitive information that we're not allowed to know. So that's why the reason I got kicked out of Broadmoor. Charlie went to Rampton, which is the other highest secure mental hospital, and I got sent to Ashworth, which is in Liverpool, another highest. There's 3 highest secure mental hospitals in the country.
How did you end up on the roof of the prison?
I climbed.
You climbed.
There was staff. I think they had like workers in that day, and there was a gate above the exercise yard, and there's like a little hatch. So obviously up the drain pipe, there's a hatch, and they had workers in, but they forgot to lock this little gate on the metal niche, the metal fencing that sort of makes it higher. So, and when I was already down the signal. I was already down that part as well because of a barricade where I was looking at charges of false imprisonment ×4 with another lad. And yeah, so you go around, you just sort of notice things, and I just noticed it like with my eyes. I don't know how, and I was like, no way, surely not. And I was just walking round and round, and I noticed it. It's fucking unlocked. So I just saw the opportunity. Like I wasn't really much one for thinking about consequences, and you know, I'd get initial thought, and I'd just run with the idea. And yeah, like, so yeah, it was hot. It was in June or July. And I just thought, fuck it, let's do it. So yeah, I went up the drain pipe, through the hatch, onto the roof.
I bet your adrenaline was through the roof doing that.
Yeah, 100%. It was a mad experience.
How did you end up coming down from the roof?
I come down at the end. I come down, voluntary come down. But they sort of jumped to me as I was like, because I was high up on the roof, so they can't come up and get you because it's health and safety. It's like life threatening because obviously it had the height. But it was like another little building, sort of when I went on that little building, they sort of come up from behind. So But I was coming down anyway. I was up there for a minute, I don't know, several hours.
What was you protesting?
I fucking didn't want to be there.
Oh.
No, I mean, I don't know. It was just, it's antisocial behaviour. It's just, you know, it was just anti-euphoric. It was, I was, you know, there was nothing. It was just, I was in punishment anyway, and it was just to be disruptive.
Was you up there by yourself?
By myself, yeah.
What did the other inmates say when they found out you was up there?
No, some of them could see because where the building was that I was on top of, all the wings were like opposite. So like near enough half the prison in Winchester could see us on the roof. So they were all banging the windows and all that lot. So yeah.
Was you like a celebrity in the prison after that?
I don't know about celebrity, but yeah, so something like that. I mean, they all got a good laugh and banter out of it.
Let's move on to your fighting. How did you feel doing your first fight?
My first one, the Bare Knuckle. Yeah, I was excited. You know, how it come about. I never intended to get into Bare Knuckle. It was, you know, I come out of prison. I started being filmed by Gavin that was making an Amazon documentary. And then, obviously, the end of this documentary, I was meant to have a boxing match, which I had. I had it in Essex, the Circus Tavern. I won the fight, which was good. And a person called Seamus Devlin, a former pro boxer, he's actually now got into Bare Knuckle himself. He actually messaged me because he went on a couple of podcasts himself, and I'd been on like the James English and another podcast, and he messaged me asking, would you do another boxing match? And I wasn't really too sure, so I was just like, oh, I don't know really, mate. But then he come back to me, he said, would you do a Bare Knuckle fight? And that interests me really more. Like, so I was like, yeah. And that's when it was agreed. It was called the BFBA. Obviously now it's the BKFC UK. And yeah, they sent me the contract and all that. And I was, you know, this was a good couple of years ago now. So, you know, especially in the last 2 years, it's really, really been blowing up the Bare Knuckle scene. So I was excited. I was really looking forward to it. Like, you know, obviously it was a first fight, and I'd been getting like clout on the internet, so I knew like a lot of people was watching, and yeah, it was a mad feeling. It was a mad feeling, and then like, you know, I started. You know, you got to like try and be headstrong with it. I remember sitting there thinking, oh, what if I'm gonna get knocked out in front of everything? What if I don't go? What if I gas out? Because I remember my first boxing fight, because it was my first ever boxing fight. Like, I didn't have that experience where I knew to turn up the gas and not. I was lucky to get the win really, because I burnt my energy. Like literally, I was like gassed in the third round. You know, and these are things you develop by experience, and you know, I didn't have that experience. So going into the Bare Knuckle, you know, that was at the back of my mind, thinking like, shit, like, what if I look shit here? What if I don't have the energy and all them kind of things? But I remember as well thinking like, what if I just knock him out straight away? And I thought, oh, that'd be amazing. And yeah, on that day, I knocked him out in 6 seconds on my debut, which was an incredible feeling.
Yeah, 6 seconds is crazy.
Yeah.
Do you find it quite like scary going into a ring? Obviously, because it is quite a brutal sport. Do you ever get like the fear? I read about this guy, Justin Thornton. He died from like spinal injuries from being in a fight. Do you ever get into the ring and then fear that you might not make it out of the ring?
I never think of it like, I've never really thought like I might die doing this. I haven't. I can't. I haven't. Do I get fear? Not so much fear, because if I was scared of doing it, I wouldn't do it. Do you know what I mean? It's like, do I get nervous and that? Yeah, you know, it's just it's like the adrenaline, but I think that's kind of like the addictive side as well. You know, it's like that feeling. You know, that you know, just. So yeah, I do get nervous before fights. I think everybody does. If they say they don't, I think they're probably lying. You know, because I think even Mike Tyson said he got nervous before fights. I think you're naturally gonna, you know, but you know, the pros still outweigh the negatives, and you know, yeah.
You cornered that guy at that boxing match. I can't remember his name. You said you cornered three.
We're calling 3 people.
Yeah.
Mr. Lipsy, yeah, he fought another autistic guy. It was a pleasure being in that corner.
Yeah, he did wicked. I was watching.
It was exciting. It was really the most exciting fight there. The whole audience, the whole crowd at your call. Like, yeah, no, what a way of spreading autism awareness.
Yeah, I thought he was going to win at first and end up
I was. It was
losing.
going back and forth. It was good. Mr. Lipsy, he does TikTok and gaming. He's such a character, And I think he had a fight before, and they give him someone that they knew he was going to sort of beat. And from what I've seen online, Lipsy, he come back and he was just like, I want a proper 50. He wants a 50-50 fight, which is fair. Do you know what I mean? Like, because he's got autism, don't treat me different. And you can't but not respect that. And he really did. He went out like they was both winners, or he might not have got the win, but fuck me, he did get the win. Do you know what I mean? Like, them two had everyone, the energy in that You're Cool. Like, they both had everybody just going nuts. Like, you don't have that of every fight. You really don't. And to be able to create that energy and make the whole building rock. Like, no, fighters can go their whole career without making a fucking doing that. Do you get what I mean? Like, having literally everyone on their feet and cheering and yeah, it was incredible. Like, they both should be so proud of themselves, and I'm so proud of Litzy, man. Do you know what I mean? Went out there and yeah, they've done amazing.
What advice did you give him before he went out?
Don't headbutt him.
Did
I'm
you?
joking. I did advice. It's just about trying to build up the self-confidence and not to tackle the anxiety and that, and yeah, just going over, loosening him up with the punches.
When the fight finished, what did you say to him?
Told him I was proud of him.
What did he say? Did he take it well?
Yeah, he was buzzing. I think he was caught up in the moment. It was quite an emotional one for him, wasn't it? So
yeah,
so I was really proud of him.
He threw some really hard punches. There was a few I saw, and I was like,
yeah, it was lovely as well because his family was over there at that bit. I didn't even know that, and his mum and that was all there shouting. It was really emotional, man. It was a fucking pleasure, honour to be part of it.
How did the other fights go that you cornered?
Everyone lost.
Oh.
Cheers. I'm the best cornerman.
Yeah. So you said that you met Liam Gavin. How did that come about? How did you meet him?
I met Liam Gavin when I was in the medium secure. So before I got released, from the higher secure. So after Broadmoor, obviously there was an incident, a kind of riot that happened in Broadmoor, which is why I got kicked out. And I went to the other higher secure in Liverpool, which was Ashworth. Then in Ashworth, after that, I went down to a medium secure hospital. And then while I was there, I actually absconded. And yeah, I went out to, long story short, I went out and I absconded and I went, so I was wanted. I actually went and hid out in Brighton for a couple of days. I'd been away for 7 years at this time. So obviously technology and all that, the phones and that was all different. I bought an Android phone and I remember I was hiding in a hotel room. I was just getting smashed. And yeah, I remember coming across YouTube and there was this guy called Liam Gavin. I noticed that he'd done a lot of true crime filming, etc. And yeah, and I was just watching a load of his stuff. And I know he'd done Amazon documentary, I think it was with Carlton Leach and that, etc. And I don't know how, I can't remember how I done it now, but I ended up getting his mobile number. And when I handed myself back in and took him back, I got hold of this geezer's personal number, this Liam Galvin. I got hold of his personal number and I remember ringing him up. And basically I thought, look, I've got about a minute on the phone to him to try and tell him my story. And so as soon as he picked up, I've gone, blah, 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 blah. I'm trying to spill my whole story out. Saying, I've just been kicked out of Broadmoor and all this and all that. We should do some filming. And literally, after me just not playing it cool whatsoever, telling him loads of stuff, I think he was like, oh, fuck off, Harry. He thought it was one of his mates ringing him up to wind him up. But no, he really, obviously, then he got on that it was serious. And then, yeah, we stayed in touch. And, as I obviously started behaving that again and working my way to get through the system, we stayed in touch. And then he started filming me for an Amazon documentary when I got released. So yeah, a lot of this was a lot of the journey that I'm on coming out was because of Liam Gavin. I've still got a great relationship with him now to this day.
How did you feel when Liam Gavin picked up the phone to you and he answered?
Yeah, I was pretty relieved, but like I said to you, I knew I had about a minute on the phone to him, and it's kind of crazy looking back now and then thinking even if I never did abscond, escape attempt, whatever you want to call it, and this would have been. So it's crazy, you know.
Obviously, you said you was hiding out in Brighton. How did that feel? Like, was you scared that you might get caught or?
Yeah, they had me on like all like Facebook news and the local paper all in the space of like 2 days. Do you know what I mean? Like mental patient on the run, and everyone was trying to like ring and that, and yeah, it was like I had anxiety out of my head. Like it was bad.
Did you have anyone on the run with you, or was you kind of by yourself?
No, I had someone pick me up in a car. Like, so I had someone grab me in a car, so I ran out to the car and we drove off. But he left me that night. I had money, and then I just went in. Again, I've always been good to go in like self-sabotage mode, and that was kind of it. But then, after the first night, the horrors kicked in, and I was like, shit, like I'm wanted. And the thing what was scaring me the most was whether I was going to go back to higher secure. That was what was burning my head out. I wish I could just ring him up and like, when you're just so sorry, you just want to take something back. You're like, I've really fucked up here.
Yeah.
And yeah, so I didn't know if I was just digging myself a bigger hole. That's why I went back. I went back after 2 days. And luckily, I never did go back to higher secure. Obviously, it did, postpone my release date.
Oh, did you turn yourself in?
I handed myself back in, yeah, about 2 days later. I'm glad I did. It was the right thing. It was the right thing to do. But it's kind of like something was meant to happen. Like I said, I met Liam, and meeting Liam and then going on there, went on like from James's podcast, which because of the boxing fight, got onto Bare Knuckle. It really, like, even now, like thinking about it, it's crazy how it did map out my life after getting out from a prison in Broadmoor for so long. Like, a lot of it is because of that event, how I met Liam, and then a lot of this, majority of all this has come from Liam. Like, yeah, so imagine I didn't escape. Like, I wonder how my life would have been coming out.
Yeah, it's always the what ifs.
Yeah, telling us. So yeah, it's mad when you think of it like that.
Yeah, what was your time like in prison? Was there any times in there where it was a bit overwhelming or?
Last time I was in prison just for like the first year or so. I'd already been to prison, and that, so I kind of just I knew I knew the drill. Like prison was just prison. It was obviously it's frustration, it's lonely, it's stressful. But obviously, then most of the time, then I got sectioned. Obviously, for what I'd done, I was sectioned. So I spent most of the time in hospital.
When you was locked up in prison, did you have any weird cellmates?
I can't really remember. I was like saying, this was 10 years ago.
Oh, a long time ago.
It was 10 years ago. I did have some cellmates, but because of the antics, because of the things I'd done in prison, obviously, I went into a single cell. So, yeah, no, not really. Yeah, no real weird cellmates, luckily.
Okay, that was good then.
Yeah.
My dad was recently locked up. He had this cellmate. He was very, very weird. When he first come in, my dad threw away the mattress before so he wouldn't have a cellmate, and then he finally had one. And then the guy must have been sat on the top of the bunk bed, and then he's just sat there just rocking back and forwards. And then my uncle said to him, because he was locked up with him, said to him, "What have you done to the poor guy?" And then he ended up giving him loads of like food, and then gave him like a wash and all that, and a new tracksuit and stuff like that, and took care of him. He said there's a lot of nutters in there. There was one guy walking around with a teddy bear and stuff. Did you ever see any nutters in prison?
No, but I saw plenty of nutters in Broadmoor.
I can imagine.
But there's all different kind of characters. You you meet some. Also, I've met some amazing people in prison. People that I've still, got a relationship and that now with to this day. You get people in prison from all different walks of life. So. But yeah, I've definitely met some characters along the way.
It seems like you've turned your life around a lot. And what was it like being in rehab?
So I went to rehab in Bradford in England. And so for the past 2 years, basically I was an undercover drinker. But I didn't sort of realise that I was, I was an alcoholic. I didn't realise it. I just thought, I liked getting on the session. I liked going out to events. I thought, I lost all my 20s. So I thought I was just playing catch up, and I thought depression was kicking in. So I thought it was out of that. But, it got really out of hand to the point that that people got worried about me. I ended up going to rehab in England, which was a place called Oasis in Bradford. But they don't make you work the steps in that area. It was more of a medical detox and etc. But I wasn't really convinced I was an addict. But I remember reading something from the big book, the AA book, and it said the relapse after recovery is the worst, it's horrendous. And so I left rehab early because I come out. Do you remember that Eddie Hall fight when he fought the two small guys on the World Freak Fight League?
I don't think I have seen
No,
it.
there's the big video, World's Strongest Man. He fought these two small guys. I was the co-main event. Me and my ex-partner was fighting another couple, another like social media couple. We had this fight. So instead of me like focusing on my recovery and like working the steps, my head was still outside. Do you know what I mean? So I left rehab early after 23 days and we had that fight. We won. Then I took another fight with small gloves. And I did that fight for free to try and promote like men's mental health and that, etc. And I even have like recoveries on there. But even though like, I wasn't actually really convinced that I was an addict, I had that fight, I won that fight, and that night I relapsed. I had this crazy idea in my head, like, I'm cured now. Because I didn't understand addiction. In that rehab, they didn't really teach you about the addiction. Like I say, it was more of a medical detox. And I didn't work the steps. So I ended up drinking that night and it just didn't fucking stop. Like, one's too many, a thousand's never enough. I did not stop. And like that relapse, you know, what it says in the book's fucking true. I was just on one to the point I was like, locked myself away back in the same fucking hotel that I went before when I just got like an 8 for Charlie and I was just bottles of gin and just like literally like just head's not in a good place, caught in that vicious circle. And then they come about. I had a friend for a friend and someone I knew on social media. His name's Jay. I think Jay's going to come on your show as well. And he was in Thailand. Like I'd been to Thailand before, Phuket, to go and, for a training camp. But even then when I went to Phuket, I fucked up. Like I went out partying and that because you can definitely go partying in Thailand as well. And it turns out he was like me. He's an ex-lad. He's been in recovery for 3 years and he actually worked in a rehab in Thailand. So this was what makes me believe like the higher power. This was when I got my connection with God. Because I knew this was this is too much of a coincidence. This is like a sign, you know. And then so I agreed to go out to Thailand, but I went out for one big bender first. I went to Tenerife. That fucking nearly killed me. I finally managed to get a plane, went over to Thailand. And yeah, thank you to Helena Rehab. So I went to this rehab called Helena in Koh Phangan, Thailand, you know, 4 months ago. And it's different there. It's a rehab for addiction and trauma. What I learned is a lot of my traumas was related to my addictions. It's a holistic approach as well. I've done therapy in that there. And also they have like a booklet that make you do the step work. Like in addiction, we follow the 12 steps, you know, and
What was the 12 steps, if you don't mind me asking?
the 12 steps is like a program in NA. So I follow the NA, but you know, all like AA as well and CA, they all had the 12-step program. You know, like step 1, for example, is accepting you're an addict. And yeah, you like to follow the steps, you get yourself a sponsor and you work the programs, you work the steps. And they make you do that in this rehab. And that's what they didn't do in rehab. And then I started learning a lot about myself. You know, I turned myself over. I built a connection with God, the God of my understanding, my higher power. I followed the spiritual principles. And this was 4 months ago. You know, this is since coming out of prison. Not many days went past where I didn't drink. Now today, I think I'm 120. Yeah, 120 days. I think we checked. Yeah, 120 days today. I am clean, sober from many substances and alcohol. I'm in a much better shape. Obviously, I've recently come back from Thailand, and yeah, like you know, I really didn't realize how much of the drinking that was having like a massive effect on my life.
What would you say led up to the addiction? Was there like a main cause which led up to it, or was it just...
No, it's a good question. I get what you're saying. Like, you know, what led to me drinking a lot, right? So I used to ask myself the same thing. Like, I didn't really think that I didn't realize how much I was drinking. I just thought it was a lump. I thought it like coming out of prison after so long. Obviously, I'm allowed to drink now. So you get what I mean? I was locked up my whole 20s.
Oh yeah, so you
So
missed out on all
there's
that.
that's it. So I missed out on like so much. So I was like sort of playing catch up, I think. But yeah, I just didn't know when to sort of stop, you know, and because of that, I ruined relationships. I ruined many opportunities that I could have got. And then I was going out partying and then going to these events and that where I was drinking. And then obviously cocaine was like getting on the chart, that would come out and I was getting on that, then waking up, come down, feeling awful. Then that put me in a circle, in the vicious circle where the next day, because I, you know, was suffering anxiety anyway, then being on a fucking come down and that, I was like, look, I had to go drink to make myself feel on a level. And I was just getting caught in this circle. And, you know, the passing of my mum 2 years ago, I lost my mum through alcohol as well. That's the thing when really, like, things really got out of hand. That's when, like, that's when, that's when I started becoming like a day drinker. Like, you know, before that, I was like quite sessiony, if you know what I'm saying. There would be like, you know, I wasn't drinking every day, but definitely the weekend I was partying. But then after the losing mum and that's when I got into more depression. That's when I was like drinking to numb pain. And then I was becoming a liability and I was just fucking up, like I said to you, I was fucking up things in my life, opportunities and that. And then being sober and having to deal with them feelings or dealing with the reality of my situation, what I would do was drink or use substances so I didn't have to feel that. Do you get what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
if I'm feeling this, but I know if I drink this or take this, I don't have to feel I don't have to feel that. Do you
Yeah.
get what I'm saying? It's a form of escapism.
As you said as well, you said you have anxiety. With the drinking, it kind of takes that away. Do you feel like that was another reason as for the drinking?
Definitely, definitely. What about yourself? Because obviously you suffer anxiety in that yourself. Have you ever drunk or used anything like to get rid of anxiety?
Yeah, I used to drink on the weekends quite a fair bit because that
Yeah.
way I could go out and speak to people and I wouldn't feel too like, oh, like I don't really want to speak to them because I feel anxious. Or if I
Mm.
see someone I know, if I've had a drink, I'll be more like, oh, hi, nice to see you. Otherwise, if I'm sober, I'll be a bit more like, oh, I'll wait till they say hi. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I get it, and that's what it is. That's like it's like a confident boost, right? So you know, like the boxing community, the bare knuckle community. So I'll go to shows, you know, because I built up a social media platform, etc. Become a known fighter, then you'll get invited to guests and go to these events, and that's how it become. And I started getting like anxiously about going to these events, and then I'd have a few drinks to make me feel more confident to go to these like shows and that. And but then when you go there, everybody's just getting on the packet and like. You know, our fighters, we're all just fucked up anyway. Do you know what I mean? Everyone, they all loves like just a messy world, and that's what it become. That's what my life was just coming, and you know, just really like using it all for escapism from life.
What's it like going to all these boxing matches?
What's it like going to them?
Yeah. Do you ever want to be in the ring when you watch a fight and think, oh, I could take him
Yeah,
out?
100%. I think that's why I ended up fighting in Thailand. Like 100%. Sometimes it's nice because you know when you have got a fight and you go in there, you know, got the nerves, you got the pressure and that on you. But when you're going to watch, you can be a bit more like, yeah, you know, you just go in there like, you know, you haven't got that pressure on you to perform, but at the same time, you kind of want that, you want that sort of adrenaline. Do you get what I mean?
Yeah.
But yeah, I enjoy going to shows. I enjoy seeing people from the circuit, you know, especially in the bare knuckle. You know, it's a small community. We all know each other. It's enjoyable.
Obviously, you've got a fight coming up soon with Ed Matthews. How did that come about?
Me and Ed Matthews used to be pals. Well, there's nothing confirmed with the fight yet. Obviously, he recently, I don't know if you see it, he had like a bare knuckle on the field, like a no rules where he kicked someone in the head or something. Did
I
you see it?
think I did vaguely see it.
And then he called me out. Like, I don't know where that call out come from. Like, I think over a year ago, we fell out and I went to that caravan site where he was. Obviously, the video went viral and put it on him. He said we was going to fight. I thought it was going to be on Misfits, but then instead of me and him fighting the Misfits, he fought Swarms instead. Obviously, beat Swarms. And then with me and him, it just kind of fizzled out. And then recently, I think a couple of months ago, he's had like some street fight with someone in a park, and he was like, "Yo, Ben Hatchett, I know you're doing your thing out in Thailand, but I want to get you on the BKFC. I don't know whether it's because Conor McGregor's took over the BKFC and that now, but yeah." So obviously I did a response video and said, "Yeah, like fight accepted." He went into America, into that house. Obviously I don't really watch the kick. I don't follow that side of social media. He's gone into that house. I'm in Thailand, so nothing like concrete's really come from it. But I think the beef and that we got, I do think me and Ed Matthews will one day fight. Yeah.
Yeah, is
You
that
know.
something that you'd want to do? Is that something that you feel you wouldn't
What,
really...
fight Ed? Oh
Yeah.
yeah, 100%. Yeah, 100%. I love to punch his head in.
Okay.
I think fucking half of England want to punch his head in as well, to be fair. And HS, like, let's be real. Like, Ed, yeah, fuck Ed, man.
Is there anybody that you would be reluctant to fight, and if so, why?
I don't know. It all depends on circumstances. It depends on, like, weight categories, what kind of fight, and money. Do you know what I mean? You know, yeah, like, I am in this to test myself. So, I don't know. There's loads and loads there's many people, but, like, no names to jump out. That's not me saying, yeah, I'd fight anyone, because I definitely wouldn't. Do you know what I mean? But there's no one like Charlie Bronson. There you go. There's the one.
You'd be reluctant to fight
I'll
Charlie?
be very reluctant to fight Charlie.
I think most people would be.
There you go.
What did you think about the Jake Paul and Mike Tyson fight?
What did you think about it?
I think it was staged.
You think it was staged?
I can't see Jake Paul fighting and beating Mike Tyson.
I don't know. Mike Tyson,
he
is, was it 58 years old? You know, I think it was sad. I think, you know, for myself, like, you know, I grew up watching the Tyson fights and that. I think that everyone was just sort of like expecting so much from Tyson. Like, we was all just waiting for that big left hook to come, you know, and shut Jake up. But the fight was just so dry. Do you get what I mean? And, you know, now everyone's saying it's just scripted, was it? You know, they're both getting paid. Like, I think Tyson got, like, you know, just from, like, what the media say, like 20 million or something.
Yeah.
You know, but then you hear all the other stuff and that as well. Apparently, you know, Mike Tyson pulled out because there was stuff in the contract where he wasn't allowed to knock him out. And it's just a shame, like, you know, you don't know what's true or what's not. And when you see it all, when you see and read and see all these things online, you don't know what's true, you don't know what is. Was it staged? Was it scripted? You know, if it's so, we all feel like we've just been cheated when really we would love to see, like, you know, I think everyone just wanted to see Tyson knock Jake Paul out, and really, you know, I did for one, I'm not gonna lie. I was there, I was watching it in Thailand. I was just watching it and, yeah.
Shouting at the TV.
Yeah, it was just, I think it just had such high expectations, you know, because it was so fucking hyped up, and I don't think it hit anyone's expectations from the fight. I think everyone was just disappointed.
It did come out a bit later that he was in hospital for an injury. I can't remember what the injury was, but I think that played a massive part in it.
Who, Tyson?
Yeah. Would there be anyone that you would like to fight, apart from Ed Matthews?
There's a couple of people that I've lost to that I'd like to fight again in due course. There's especially two people, because I know I shouldn't have lost to them. One of them, I literally did a big fucking line of Charlie before walking out to the fight. That was in the hay bales as well, the 8 foot by 8 foot hay bales. Like, I was in a fucking state. I was on a session all weekend. Mates had to come pick me up to go take me up to Bradford for a fight in the pits. Like, that was fucking crazy. And I was fighting the champion and that as well. I was off my nut. Like, I shouldn't even have had that fight, but I took it anyway. I did it. And obviously I've got to beat the Swan again, because he got me the second time. But again, I wasn't training or anything. And, you know, right, again, Robbie Brown is someone I'd definitely like to rematch with, because, you know, I took the fight at short notice. And the whole times I just, you know, I wasn't taking training seriously. I lost my way. You know, Bare Knuckle is a sport I love with a passion. You know, that's what, even now with my own fight platform, Street Beefs, you know, we're hybrid boxing. It's a stepping stone for people to get into Bare Knuckle. Like, you know, I love the sport, and I wasn't giving the sport the respect and everything that it deserves because of addiction. And, you know, I've only got myself to blame. Like I said, I got away, I started training again. Now I'm committed, I'm focused. I am back on the BKFC. I spoke with the BKFC and I'm fighting again on there in May. I'm going to be fighting on my own platform, March the 1st, again, to getting back into the swings of it. And this year, like, I'm just going to give it everything. You know, I love to rematch a few people that I got losses to, you know. So I definitely want to give, I definitely know if I fight Robbie again, I can give him a much better account of myself. You know, I was in no state to fight him, not taking anything away from Robbie. I've got absolutely so much respect for that lad. I actually admire him as a fighter. Pelly, again, I just know 100% I could beat Pelly. You know, I shouldn't have lost that fight. It's like the Swan already beat him. I didn't even need to take the second fight with him. But again, I didn't train him anything, and I still battered him for 2 rounds. He got one good body shot on me, but you know, he still got it. But I know if we was ever, if we was to fight the way I am now, like he wouldn't get out the first round. So yeah, and obviously I'm going down in weight now. They're down to 61. I was fighting people too heavier than me because I was walking around with a fucking beer belly. And yeah, so I'm excited to fight again. I'm excited, you know, the training that I've been doing over in Thailand. After Christmas, I'll be going back to Thailand, you know, for my fight camp. So yeah, just staying focused, staying committed, and actually, you know, a proper training camp, and that is, yeah, I'm really looking forward to it.
Have you ever gone into a fight worried that you might lose?
I think every fight, I think, you know, like, I think every fighter gets them sort of nerves, you know. I can only talk from my opinion, but you know, I think I'd say from my knowledge and fighters that I spoke to, I think every fighter gets nervous, and if any fighter said they don't, I think they chat shit. I don't know that, they might not, but just my personal opinion. But it's difficult because obviously, you know, when I fight, I don't just fight like unlicensed, like small shows. It's, you know, because I've developed a social media platform and etc. And obviously, I get numbers and that on my fights. A lot of people watching, especially, you know, I've got 2 sons. This is one of the other reasons why I got clean, got sober, and I'm committed now to the fight because I want them to be able to watch my fights when they're older and be proud. I don't feel like I definitely haven't given 100%. You know, so like to answer the question, nervous. Yeah, I'm nervous, but now I'll probably still be nervous. But before I'm nervous because I know I hadn't put 100% in behind. I hadn't put 100% into the training that fight demands. Do you get what I'm saying?
Yeah. You said you was 120 days sober today.
Yes.
Would you say you're ready to give 100% to the sport?
Oh yeah, I have been like saying I can actually see my fucking abs now. Like really, like I've had a horrible dad bod for like the last 2 years. So I definitely feel fit and healthy. Like my blood pressure was like near 160 when I went into the rehab. Like I should have never even been passed for a medical for a fight. You know, I was in a bad way, but yeah, I'm definitely committed. I'm 100% focused from diet to training, spiritually, mentally. You know, 2025 is, you know, I'm fully committed and definitely going to give it 120%.
Bigger and better things for the new year.
Yeah, that's it. It's going to be a better year.
I seen a video of you knocking out that living in London guy. How did that come about?
At the press conference, I
Yeah.
was living in London, a blast from the past. This was like the old podcast war days. This was like a couple of years ago, and it was like some well-known podcasters and myself and some other characters on YouTube. You know, it wasn't long after lockdown. Everybody was sort of like arguing and that, and you know, a lot of it sort of was clicks and views and that as well. And yeah, living in London, he used to troll the shit out of me, mate. He used to troll everyone to get views. That was his niche. Now I look back from like more of a mature head, not like, and that as an angry point of view, like that's just his sort of character. That's what worked for him. But instead of me just sort of like, I put myself in this situation, like getting views of people are gonna like use your name to get clickbait and that, and you know, people are gonna troll you. That's life. That's the internet. I took it all to heart. I come back with things, and you know, then it got personal. But it got personal in the DMs on Instagram, and this is why a lot of people don't realize actually why I did what I did. They just think I turned up to a press conference pissed and hit him, which I did. You know, I did hit him. I was a bit pissed, But he said some, like, at the time, my first baby mum, she was pregnant with my son. And because she had done Babe Station, because she was an OF star and all that, he's used that to really trigger me. But like the things he was saying, you know, the kid's not yours and stuff like that, like what he said was vile, you know. So when I saw him actually in the person, not through a fucking phone, obviously I wanted to pull him up in it. So I pulled him up and I just saw red, so I hit him. I knocked him out.
Yeah, you could see in the beginning of the video, you were just kind of sitting there, minding your business, not getting too involved, and then by the end of it, you got knocked out.
Because I was waiting for the press conference to finish because I wasn't even fighting him in the press conference. I was waiting for it to finish, but the whole time I was sitting there just stewing on it. I was waiting for it to finish so I could go and pull him up.
Oh, so you already had it in your head to knock him out.
No. Do you know what? No, I didn't. I didn't. But I had it in my head to go and pull him up. Like, but then within seconds, things just escalated. He is funny. Like some of his content, he was funny. I definitely think he should come back to the internet because, you know, he pissed me off for fucking a year or something. But I could see why people took to him because he was funny. He was entertaining.
Obviously, you know Charlie Bronson. Do you think he should be released from prison?
No, 100%. Yeah.
How did you meet Charlie Bronson?
I've never met Charlie in person. We only know each other. When he got out again through Gavin, when I first got out, he sent me a card, wishing me all the best from his journey. You know, there's two people ever kicked out of Broadmoor. It was him and myself. You know, and we've both been in Broadmoor. We both know what you go through when you've been to that place. You know, me getting out, that's probably why he's rooting. You know, he's rooting for me. I fought for the title, the Charlie Bronson title. The second fight with this one, and unfortunately I lost. But yeah, and like that, he done a lovely like voice message that they made into like a promo thing, and that was really like, you know, like heartwarming. It's crazy. Like obviously we were saying earlier, like, you know, before I ever went there, watching the film where Tom Hardy played in Bronson, and then now the guy that, you know, I know him, and yeah, like it's sad to see, you know, it's a lot of his life. Fucking pretty much all his life, he's spent it behind the door. He's been to them places, and you know, it'd be nice if he can get out, not to die in there. You know, because there's so much in the world. There's so much beauty. There's so much. It's a big world out here, you know, and for him, he don't really. I'm surprised he don't know any different. Do you get what I mean? You know, he's done fucking most of his time in segregation. It's a shame, you know, he's not getting any younger. It'd be nice, like, you know, for the ending, the last chapter of his life, at least for him to sort of, you know, to be free, you know, and to enjoy some of the beauties that life's got to offer, because I think he would definitely fucking appreciate it, you know, being an artist and all that. Like, it'd be nice for him to have a lovely ending to his life.
He is very good at the drawings. I've got a drawing back at home of him
Yeah.
that I sent to my family. I think I'm going to start writing him letters soon, maybe. Yeah, I think it would be nice for him to get out. Obviously, he's been in there for quite a while.
I think what he's been nicked for doesn't warrant, like, what's the word, like, you know, for the crimes that he's been convicted for, definitely don't, you know,
Add up to the time he's doing.
add up to the time, you know. Obviously, you know, if you commit a crime in the country we live in, you know, it comes with prison time. But you know, there's people that have murdered, raped, and done all sorts of like more horrific crimes than what Bronson has, and they probably got out less than him.
Yeah, I've got a lot of respect for him. He doesn't hit women, and he hasn't ever murdered anyone.
No,
I don't think it's fair for him to serve his whole life in there.
no, it's sad. It is sad, and you know, hopefully, I remember seeing the documentary, the TV documentary about, you know, when he was really trying to push for his release, and you know, when you had the whole TV campaign and that, you know, hopefully that might have been enough, but still, they won't release him, man. So, but who knows? But hopefully,
Yeah, fingers crossed.
fingers crossed, definitely.
Have you got any plans for the future coming up?
Yeah, obviously, I've got with a couple of partners, we've got Street Beefs UK, the fight platform, which has been doing really good. We've had it for a year. Obviously, it's in between boxing and bare knuckle. So 5 2-minute rounds. They fight in MMA gloves, which is 4-ounce gloves. And it's been incredible. A lot of people we've had on the show have come from addiction, have come from troubled past. And some of them even gone on to like professional bare knuckle platforms now. People have come on, they've got into real editing and videographing through our company. It's been amazing. And the next show, and which is incredible, is we're going to be collabing with Freddie Warren, which is a nephew of Frank Warren. That's when I come back to Wembley. I had a meeting with him. So basically, he's picking 10 gloved boxers, pro boxers. I'm picking 10 bare knuckle boxers, and they're fighting hybrid boxing, which is 4-ounce MMA gloves, and that's going to be the next show. So yeah, and that's when I'm also going to be fighting on there, and Freddie Warren's also going to be fighting too. So that's going to be on the 1st of March. Obviously, I'll be back on the BKFC in May. So after Christmas, I'll be going back to Thailand, and then I'll just be getting my head down, focusing on training. And my plans for the future is literally just focus on my recovery, making amends for some of the carnage that I've caused, especially in the last 2 years with due to addiction, and give a lot of service back in each day, just trying to be better.
Would you say being out in Thailand has made the recovery easier for you?
Yeah, 100%. I think. Well, I went there. I went to the rehab, the holistic. It's a tiny island, Koh Phangan. That's where the rehab is. If it wasn't for Jay and people in that rehab, where it's a small island, I've got them there. Like people that have, exactly the same, not exactly the same story, but have got the same past. Like fucked things up through, being mentally, spiritually broken through alcohol and substances. And the fellowship, that we just support. And I think, being away from the UK is better for me at the minute. Do you know what I mean? Out there, I'm really working on myself, especially spiritually. Like, being away is definitely beneficial for me. And, my plan is, to do some voluntary in that rehab in the future to give service back, and obviously as well to say thank you and to carry the message. We only keep what we got by giving it away. And there's so many people struggling. There's so many people, especially, men's mental health and that. There's so many people, bodies are dropping from addiction. Suicide in men's fucking stupid, And when you've got people with platforms, like I remember when I was like suffering, when I'm on come downs or when I'm going through struggling and I'm watching people's content, like words can be powerful. That's why I'm quite honest with the content I put out there. I don't mind putting my vulnerabilities out there and being honest, because I know it's spreading a message and that can inspire other people. Because I was watching other people when I was going through a dark time, dark place, that was, planting the seed for me to go and to try and sort my shit out. Do you get what I mean?
Yeah.
And to be able to with all the chaos, and then even go if we go right back to all the bullshit that I've done in life, the negative side of things. Obviously, I don't really like talking about it, like the prison and the Broadmoor, all the crazy shit. This is I've got a chance now. I'm a big firm believer in karma, and I believe this is a chance for me now to try and make indirectly making amends for the carnage and some of the real negative things that I've done on people and done it the way I've affected people. So, again, this is me trying to correct my karma, as one would say, I think.
I feel like men's mental health isn't taken as seriously as women's mental health. Do you think growing up with mental health has been kind of hard to find help for it?
Definitely. I think, recent time now, it's good to see people with, as you would say, alpha males. You got my Tyson Fury, obviously, talking about it and being open on us. This is the gypsy heavyweight boxer, someone like that, coming out actually saying it. Big up as well to Paddy Pimblett, lost his friend through men's suicide, using the platform when he's there, UFC, and, luckily it went viral and that as well. It does need to be pushed, but there is stigma. I think there was a lot of stigma around it. When I was in Koh Phangan, in Thailand, Nigel Ben and Conor Ben come out to do a seminar, seminar talking,
Yeah.
a Q&A. And I went there. I got invited as a guest by Michael Fairfax, and I went there. And Nigel Ben was talking, and he was basically like, he basically admitted like he had mental health back in the day, but because of the stigma and that, and obviously again what was going on with like the race stigma and that as well back then, he didn't feel like he could talk about it, or he was giving people more ammo. Do you get what I mean? So I do
Yeah.
think it is coming a long way, but the stigma around men's mental health can only get less by more people talking up and not suffering in silence or not feeling like embarrassed, ashamed, etc. Do you know what I mean? Like it's
It's like that saying where it's like men don't cry and stuff. I don't think that's very like right. I think if men need to cry, men should be able to cry. Everyone's got feelings like they're human beings. Um, do you feel like, obviously being in like Broadmoor and stuff, do you think it made it worse, your mental health?
yeah, I definitely needed therapy coming out of that place, even though I call it hospital. You know, I think it's definitely created a lot of trauma. I think when people can't deal with their trauma, it bottles it up, and and it can come out in other ways. It can come out in other areas. Like me, it can come out by taking, you taking drink, taking substances. You're trying to mask how you feel, bottling it up, and all of a sudden you could snap, you could lose your head, or you could get yourself in a situation where you could end up going to prison, affecting people's lives. That's what I listen. I think, like, especially in a fellowship, we talk. If you're going through things, share it. Don't suffer in silence. I feel that, like, if you're going through mental health, or you're going through it, as a man, you don't need to be going like online, and if you're not that comfortable with it and like promoting it. It's good when you see people that are promoting it, like that, doing it, because that should inspire you to actually go and seek support. Do you get what I mean?
Yeah.
There's so many ways you can go about it, but I definitely think the worst thing you can do is keeping it to yourself. Like I know it's now. When I'm having days when I'm struggling now, because obviously I'm dealing with now, clear headed, with the shit that I've caused for the last 2 years. Like, it gets to my head. Like, I'm an emotional person as it is, and then I'm sitting there thinking that I'm stressing, but I know I've got my sponsor and that on the phone. I know I've got friends that are in the same fellowship, that I ring them, and just even offloading can help, and getting their point of views on things. Like, I know when I come off the phone to them, I'm like, oh, you know what I mean? Like, a problem shared is a problem half kind of thing.
Yeah.
Do you get what I mean? So I can only talk for what's working for me, experience, but the fellowship's been going for a long time, and yeah, I definitely that's all I can promote with that.
Talking kind of takes the weight off and stuff.
I definitely think it helps, 1,000,000%. I can only speak for myself and from what I've seen in that, and that's why it is in the program. Talk to a sponsor. I don't just keep it to yourself. Share.
So obviously you've gone to rehab and that. Do you think you'd be better dealing with mental health now than you would have back then?
Yeah, yeah, I do, because in the fellowships, the program, what we got from what I learned about the steps and that, working the steps in rehab does really, really better you as really does better you as a human being.
What advice was you given when you was going through a tough time that kind of helped you get through it?
But when I was going through these tough times, what I was making things worse. This is what I'm saying. So this is an important thing. So my advice, if I was giving advice back to myself, would be definitely seek support. Don't try and like bottle things up, and with me, not thinking drinking and that was the solution, not thinking fuck it, not thinking going in sabotage mode, and especially like if you're going through that depression where like you're getting in thoughts of giving up and that, giving up is the easiest thing to do. But you can just and you just got to keep going forward. When I did the interview, Kevin Lane, your family know Kevin Lane, the Hertfordshire hitman as they call him.
Yeah.
I was going through a bit of a difficult time once, and that was due to a relationship. Like there's no pain like a broken heart, right? The relationship stuff, and that when it comes to relationship, that shit's painful. And I was talking to him about it, and he told me, bro, like this shit, put your hand down your trousers, grab your balls, and remember who the fuck you are. Keep going, and you gotta you gotta keep going. Giving up's the easiest thing to do. You gotta keep going. Seek support. Don't suffer in silence. You know.
When you were struggling with addiction, what made you finally realise that it was addiction that you had?
When I was just fucking on my knees, broken mentally, spiritually, financially in Tenerife 4 months ago. No, I realised it before that. That's why I had to leave. I had to leave my son. I had to leave my ex because I didn't want to affect his life. When I was drinking, waking up, and I was getting anxiety because I didn't have vodka there in the morning. That's when I knew, yeah, that's when I realised I was an addict, and that from the book where it said the relapse after recovery. That's when I knew, and then it all just when I clocked it. That's when, when you get like when something makes sense in the head, and you start all of a sudden the pieces start coming together. It was like that sort of moment. But even though I knew it, I wasn't drinking them because I enjoyed it. I was drinking because I needed it.
Do you feel like with the bare knuckle boxing, do you feel like that's a form of self-harm or mental health?
I think at one point, when I wasn't taking fights and that serious, I think in self-sabotage, it could have been some form of self-harm, like me not giving a fuck and taking stupid fights like the Robbie, I should never took Robbie Brown on. He just done a full training camp. He'd just been Dekahegi online, like the geezer was twice his sides in a no rule fight. I was just doing it because so yeah, I was just in self-sabotage and just, yeah, so kind of it was like in a way, but no, but I do the bare knuckle because I love this sport. Like everybody's got their hobbies, their interests, their passions, everything. Everybody's got something that inclination that makes them, that makes them tick, enjoys, it excites them. For me, it's bare knuckle boxing. I'm honoured to be able to do it, but I do think at one point it was a form of self harm, like a bit of an escapism for the wrong reasons, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Do you feel like, obviously, when you go into a fight, every boxer's got the fear of losing because it can be a hit on the ego. But did you ever have the fear going into a fight of getting hurt?
Not so much. Like you can't. If you're going into a bare knuckle fight, the chances are you're getting hurt. Like if you're worried about getting hurt, I would definitely take up another sport.
Okay, that makes sense. Hi guys, and welcome to Crime That People. Have you ever got into a fight where you've been badly hurt but still carried on fighting?
No, not really. No.
I'd be so scared getting into a fight in case someone broke my nose.
No, I got my nose broke by Jake Green. I shot straight up after it was a flash knockout. I got straight up. That was pretty up with the worst injury I had. But I got up too quick and I started wondering. I wanted to carry on, but the ref stepped in. So that was a shame, and that was for the Charlie Bronson title. So I was gutted.
How did you feel when you knocked out that guy in 6 seconds? It must have felt really
Fucking
good.
relieved. All the anxieties I had, like we said earlier, all the anxieties and everything that I had, everything was just sort of like, I felt the dog, I felt the bollocks. I was like, yeah, I felt relieved. I won. It was an amazing feeling. But then, I think as well, like, because I went like 4 fights undefeated, my confidence, my ego, and then obviously, I was drinking more and more. I was too complacent. I wasn't training, and I just thought I could keep knocking people out, but life's got a funny way of humbling you,
Obviously, you said you have a lot of emotions and stuff.
Mm.
Have you ever felt guilty after knocking someone out?
Never, no.
No?
Not in the ring, in the sport, no, because this is the sport, this is competition, like.
It's what you got to do.
Yeah, would he feel guilty for knocking me out? No, probably not. No, they'd be buzzing, the ones that beat. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, fair enough.
Lucky I've never had one of the fights where someone's been severely injured. Like, if it was something like that, then obviously there's gonna be some sort of feelings towards that. But luckily that hasn't happened, and hopefully that never will happen.
Have you ever felt anger in the ring where you wanted to not do it professionally?
Yeah, Bobby K. I know exactly where you're going. Because Bobby K was another one who spoke shit about my baby mum, a Scottish guy. It was my third bare knuckle fight, and yeah, I was if you look the fight up, you can see I knocked him first punch. I sent him across the ring. His tooth come flying out as well. If you actually slow mo, you can actually see his teeth going like flying along. So
Yeah,
and I felt so good about that. I'm not gonna lie, and I was screaming above him when he went down. I was pissed off. I wanted him back up. He got back up, so I went in and I really, really hammered him. He crossed the lines in some of the shit talking. Listen, we believe in shit talking. Like, look at Conor McGregor and that, shit talking works. People love, if you look at the influence of boxing and that, everyone loves, like, the dramas and that. It creates hype and that, but there's definitely got to be a line, like, bringing people's families and that into it. And, what the fuck? It was because I was with a babe station girl that I know if. It was just an easy target to try and trigger me. And because of, like, living in London and shit and that, people knew it upset me. But obviously, people was targeting someone I cared about. So obviously it triggered me. But yeah, I'm sure he gets triggered now every time he sees that. He has to watch that fight back. And, when I don't know if he's got that tooth replaced yet or what, but.
Oh, nothing to feel guilty about in that fight
No,
then.
see, karma. Again, going back as well, I'd say, like, as well, advice to people. I'd say one of the good things, one of the key things is to really helping me now. People are going through difficult in life, and that is a gratitude list. And that's one thing I would say has really, really helped me. Every morning, obviously, I say my prayers to the God of my understanding, but I also write what I'm gratitude for. And coming back to London, like these last few days, it's just been manic non-stop and that, and this fucking weather. Like, I've had to put trousers on. I haven't had trousers on the last 4 months because I've just been bopping around on my moped in Thailand. And I've had to go and get tracksuits. I'm cold. It's always easy to get caught thinking, like, negative stuff. Like, but every morning, if you can, is write down what your gratitude is. Is write down what you're grateful for. A lot of times in life, we can get caught up in, I haven't got this, I've got that, and we forget what we've got in our life. Like, some things that we've got in our life that we should be grateful for is what other people would dream about, what other people would want. Do you get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think that's important. I wanted to put out there.
Like, your life could be someone else's dream and stuff like that, but you just don't know.
Exactly. You don't know it, and gratitude can make you go fair. Staying humble and gratitude. Yeah, and that's definitely what I've took in Thailand. So that's advice I definitely put out there to people. Keeps you grounded, it keeps you humble.
What would you say that bare knuckle boxing has taught you about yourself?
Getting humbled, getting humiliated, but giving me focus and everything. Like, when I wasn't drinking it, coming out of prison, I fell into it, and it's given me a platform. It's given me character. It's given me saying, like, a sport that I've contributed to. When I was in prison, like, the law of attraction, I manifested this. I manifested. I wanted to do. I never knew it'd be bare knuckle. I just thought it was boxing. I wanted to do it, and it's given me a sense. It's given me a sense of purpose, and it's given me, like, from all different kinds. Like saying, like, it's taught me life in a hard way. Like, when I wasn't training right and that, thinking that I can just go in there and knock people out, I got fucking humbled. And then some of them fights have had fucking a stupid amount of views. I have to know that, like, oh fuck, like, that's me. Do you know what I mean? Like, I'm looking at myself. I'm not happy with looking how I am myself. Now that, I'm on top of the addiction, now I can really focus on the bare knuckle. Now I can, it's giving me, now it's giving me focus. I know the work that I've got to put in now. So structure.
Would you say that you feel anxiety when you watch your fights back?
Not when I win, no.
Oh, okay.
No, they feel quite good when I watch them back. You know what I mean? But I never really watched the fights back, to be fair.
Would you say doing the bare knuckle boxing makes you feel more confident in yourself? Because I did a bit of boxing and it made me feel a bit more confident doing all the training and stuff. I felt a bit more strong going out and stuff.
Yeah, I think not so much doing the bare knuckle. I think, like, doing the training and that gives you confidence. I think, like, is it releasing, like, is it not dopamine or endorphins? Like, like, it's like a form of exercise. Like, when when you're training and that, when you're training, it makes you feel focused. Like, it makes you feel good. Like, so yeah.
What's the hardest part about the training?
I think the hardest part, I think when you're sparring, when you go into a boxing sparring, that can be really testing because, if you go in there and you're sparring, especially when it comes to boxing, boxing and bare knuckle are different sports, and I thought, my with the boxing, if I spar people that have come from an amateur background, obviously I don't come from a boxing background. you know, it can be disheartening when you've been like really like sort of fucking levered in sparring and that. It can make you just think, oh, I don't like it can be the mental side, you know, that can be it, I think, is it can really be mentally, you know, you can question yourself, it can be mentally draining, and yeah, I think that can be the biggest test.
Obviously, you're big on the TikTok. Is there anybody on TikTok that you'd like to fight? Apart from Ed Matthews again.
Apart from Ed Matthews, anyone on TikTok? Yeah, Polly. I'm going to see Polly this weekend. So he's having a 4-way tournament. Obviously, I'm cornering Alfie. Alfie's fighting DJ Decker. I'm really looking forward to the fight. I'm also cornering Lipsy. Fair play to Kipsy, sorry. A guy with autism going out there, you know, boxing. I absolutely love that. I admire it. I respect it. I feel privileged that I'm going to be in his corner. I'm really looking forward to supporting him. Alfie, I'm calling Alfie. Like, everyone on TikTok fucking hates Alfie pretty much, and they love DJ Decker. But I'm really looking forward to that fight. But Polly's been on Misfits a few times. Now I've dropped down weight. You know, like I said, I don't like gloved boxing. You know, I like bare knuckle. That's why I do bare knuckle. But if I was to put the gloves on, obviously people like, you know, Ed Matthews or going down the influencer boxing road, Polly would definitely be on that list. And, you know, you never know what could happen at this weekend. We all know I love a press conference, don't we?
Would you say you'd knock out anyone else at a press conference?
Never again, no.
Was there any repercussions for that?
Yeah, it didn't look good, did it? You know, I mean, a lot of people did videos about it, but, you know, they didn't know the full story.
I did see a funny video where he said, what did he say? He was saying how you barely even hit him, and then it cut to another clip where it's saying that you broke his jaw pretty much.
I know, I think the thing with living in London, he's a funny one, and he's like, he's definitely contradicted so many people, like them trolls that do their accounts and that, and like they make piss take videos at you. I've been on the receiving end of them, probably deserved it. But yeah, they a lot of them get onto living in London, but they have a field day with him because he is just that character, and he contradicts himself and just his personality and that, innit? But yeah.
Yeah, the contradiction.
But we don't see much of him no more. Like, he hasn't been about for a long time now, has he? So I'm sure he'll be back one day. But like saying, we find it out, we spoke and that, and I hope he does get back out there. You know, he was entertaining. So yeah.
Has there been anyone that you've got into a fight with and you've regretted getting into a fight with? Apart from the one that you said where you went after having like a little bit of a bender.
Yeah, I regret the Robbie Brown fight. Obviously, to get on the BK, just fighting the BKFC was just amazing. I think that went to my head, and you know, Robbie Brown's a top level fighter, someone that I really admire, and you know, I would love to run it back with him in the future, 100%, especially how I am now, and you know, a couple more fights because he's levels, you know, he is levels above me. I regretted fighting him then at that time, but I was so caught up with just getting on the BKFC. That's the truth. I regretted fighting the Swan the second time round because I know in reality I'd pissed the Swan. You know, especially if I was to fight the Swan now, the Swan wouldn't get out the first round. Doing lines of coke, walking into a pit fight, probably safe to say I regret that one. And I'm not going to say every fight I've lost because that's just like that just be like a sore loser. But you know, I'd say they're the fights I probably regret the most.
Obviously you've built a name for yourself over the years. Do you feel like it's changed you as a person?
No, I did. I think, you know, when I was like from being in prison and coming out to being known, and then going to like these events, and you know, some of the networking that I've done. You know, I dreamed about this at one time. You know, and I did. Has there been times when it's gone to my head? Yes, of course. And you know, that's maybe be selfish and you know upset people. And that's why I think, like, you know, God life humbled me.
Well, Ben, it's been lovely to listen to you and hear your story. Thank you everyone for watching.
So how have you found your first podcast?
Scary.
You found it scary? Anxious.
I want to go home and have a cup of tea.
Well, listen, I felt honoured coming on as your first guest. I'm sure it's been an experience. But hopefully, guys, everyone just go support Honey. You know, like and subscribe. And I look forward to watching your journey, you know, you growing. and with all the guests I hear you've got coming up, I'm excited. But it's been a pleasure to come on today.
Thank you for coming on. I look forward to hearing more from you in the future.
Go on, big love. Everyone take care.